Hi, everybody. I'm Brittany Lewis, a reporter here at Forbes. Joining me now is my Forbes colleague, staff writer Zach Everson. Zach, thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me back, Brittany.
You and I talked about a week and a half ago, which seems like a lifetime ago, on Election Day, and you were reporting that Donald Trump was hawking his merch. Now you're reporting the president-elect has a robust product line to celebrate his victory. Less than a day after Vice President Kamala Harris conceded the race, the Trump store sent out a message about some of his celebratory goods. So talk to us about the email and what he's selling.
Sure. So the email was, exclusive access. The 45-47 collection just launched. Exclusive access, I could only imagine. I don't think Target's going to carry it. I think it's probably a line that's just going to stick to the Trump store. But it put out that email blast. It had 21 products on there, ranging from $28 mugs to $195 zero restriction brand pullovers, and they were all emblazoned with 45-47. Stacked on top of each other and surrounded by 50 circles, or 50 stars rather, on there. Trump, of course, was the 45th and will be the 47th president. And they seem to be selling pretty well. Within a couple days, 3 of the items were sold out altogether, and some of the items were sold out of a lot of different sizes.
So where exactly is this money going?
This money is going to Donald J. Trump. Not going to any campaign, not going to any nonprofit. You can see it on his financial disclosures that he mentions his online retail store, and this is going straight to his pocket.
Zach, you and I talk about this question all the time in these types of stories. Is it illegal or just unethical, or is it unethical to entangle the presidency with personal business?
Well, it certainly runs contrary to something Donald Trump and his attorney promised to do at a pre-inauguration press conference back in Trump Tower in January 2017, where they said they were doing everything they possibly could to reassure the American public that Donald Trump would separate his businesses from his presidency and would not profit off the presidency. We never got a definitive legal ruling on any of that. He is such a master at delaying investigations and delaying court cases that we never got a ruling. So we're kind of back to where we started from on the date of his first inauguration. What's illegal? We have no idea. I would imagine lawsuits will be filed. But if you remember, there was that lawsuit on that his hotel violated the emoluments clause by accepting money from foreign and state governments. That made it all the way to the Supreme Court, but not on the merits of the case. They were still trying to figure out who had the right to sue over that issue. And they never resolved that, and then he lost the election, and it got thrown out as moot. So, we are back to square one on that. But that said, I can't remember any other president out there, hawking merch like this.
And now TrumpStore.com is selling 45-47 merch. Walk us through the history of TrumpStore.com, because it's over 15 years old. Start at the inception of this website.
Sure. So it started off just kind of selling some golf stuff. There was apprentice themed stuff. There was Trump University. I actually found this, on archive.org. I did click through just to see if any of the Trump University stuff could still be purchased. Alas, it could not. Would have liked to have a copy of that. So it was up for a few years like that. And then it disappeared and just became a redirect that would direct people to a site for the physical retail stores in Trump Tower. I'm guessing the retail sales on the website probably weren't good enough to merit keeping it up, so they got rid of it. But then in the fall of 2017, so a time when Donald Trump is president, they decided to bring this website back. Now, at first, it didn't have any sort of conflicts with his official position, other than the fact that it did allow anybody to get money to the president. It just sold golf merchandise, so there wasn't any sort of government imagery or anything like that. And that first year, sales were about $100,000 by our estimate, and the store lost $15,000. Now, in following year, they hit $520,000, and the losses went up to $100,000. Now, things started to change in 2019, and that was the first year that they really leaned into the presidency, and they leaned in hard. They put the White House on wrappers of soap and other products right there, and it was various part of their cherry blossom collection celebrating the DC hotel, but there were mugs, there were all sorts of items that were selling imagery of not just the White House, but also the Capitol and other DC landmarks, including the president's hotel. So sales that year shot up to $930,000. Losses dropped, but there were still losses. They did retreat on the products. Once we pointed out the soap, they started selling that package. It was a collection of 3 bars of soap. In the middle one, that was the one with the White House, just didn't come with a wrapper. And they said they had discontinued the line, but items did linger on there for a long time. So from the rest of his presidency, they weren't as blatant about co-opting his office, but they slapped the stars and stripes on just about everything. I mean, flip-flops, you name it. You could get Trump in red, white, and blue. And, it's not that far of a stretch to think, oh, yeah, it's the president's name in the colors of the American flag.
So back in 2007, the businessman Trump was selling merch. Now in 2019 and on, it was President Trump-esque merch. Then, as we know, Donald Trump was voted out of the White House in 2020. So between 2021, when he officially left the White House, and the past 4 years, how has the merch changed, or did they continue to lean on that stars and stripes vibe?
Oh, they jumped into it. They shortly after he lost, less than a month, they launched the T45 collection. Again, he was the 45th president. Within weeks, it was sold out of its bestseller, which didn't even say Trump. It was a white baseball cap with USA on the front and 45 on the back. I mean, that doesn't even seem like Trump store product. It's something you could get in any. It sounds like something you'd be able to buy in a souvenir store in D.C. near the White House. So they really leaned in hard to that. He was out of office, so accountability was less of an issue. Not that it really seemed to matter too much while he was in office, but revenue dipped a little bit that first year to $1.5 million. But as his reputation was scrubbed, it bounced back up. By the end of 2023, sales bounced back to about $2.7 million.
And as we know, since he's entered the political landscape, Donald Trump has really promised to bring jobs back to America, to keep jobs in America. Are these products made domestically?
Many of them are labeled as made in America, which begs the question, what about the products that don't have such a label? So I think there were about 5 items of that original 21 that were not described as made in America. So be interesting to see what happens when he becomes president, and if he enacts those tariffs, and if any foreign goods that he's selling on his store get impacted by those tariffs, whether they discontinue them or jack up the price, because as we all know, it's not the foreign country that's going to be paying the tariffs.
We're at a really historic inflection point right now because we have the opportunity to look back at Donald Trump's first term to see if there's any indicators, any foreshadowing of how the second term is going to go. And you and I have talked a lot about Donald Trump not separating his businesses from his administration in the first term. So does this indicate how he's going to operate in the second term?
Yeah, I can't imagine they're going to wipe all these products off the website. There's the coffee table book of photos that came from the public domain. You can buy that for $100, or with an authentic copy of Trump's autograph, you can get it for $500. They've got Space Force hats, celebrating the department that he helped launch. Trump 45 sneakers in white or red for $225. Those items aren't just going to be taken down. They're going to keep that up, and I would not be surprised if they continue to launch it. We saw that retreat from them with the White House soap wrapper. I can't imagine that's going to happen. And that's small dollars, but in a similar vein, remember that you tried to get the G7 at Doral, and that got walked back after there was such of an outcry. I can't imagine that they would get walked back this time. I would not be surprised to see him, commingle the presidency and his businesses even further.
And why do you think it wouldn't be walked back this time?
Well, the voters spoke, and he won by a sizable amount. And, I can't imagine many people were ignorant of the fact that he was using the presidency to profit. It's been reported on extensively. I know the average reader is not just paying attention to politics all the time, but it's certainly out there. And he's also not going to be accountable. He doesn't have to run for a third term. So without the voters lingering over his head, what does he care if a bunch of people complain? He can just have it there anyways. It's his decision.
Well, Zach Everson, per usual, I appreciate your reporting. Thanks so much for joining me.
My pleasure.